Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is Pest and Lawn Ginja. Today, we're going to talk about how to keep those planter areas weed-free and maintenance-free. Now, are you spending more time picking weeds out of your planter's box than you do spending with your own family? You might have a problem.
Like many of you guys out there, I want to continually be the Jones, but it just doesn't feel like I have time to keep up with these weeds and to make sure that I have a well-manicured, trimmed bush. Like many of you guys out there, I have my own job and I don't have time to be in these planter areas week after week after week. So I've developed some easy steps for you guys at home to have a weed-free, maintenance-free planter area.
Now let's go through my 4 easy steps on maintaining a weed-free planter area. Step number 1 is hand removing the weed.
Now I typically do this just with a screwdriver and put the base of the screwdriver around the roots of the weed, and I make sure that these flower beds are fairly wet before I start this process. Now the point of doing this is a lot of these weeds are very mature, but we have a lot of grasses in here too. We want to make sure that we get as many weeds out as possible to create enough space so we can see between the weeds and the plants that we want to keep. Now, I'm pretty impressed with the after results of just removing the weeds by hand. It looks much cleaner, it looks much nicer, but my bushes are still a little bit out of control. In all technicality, these are perennial grasses, and the best thing that you could do is to just cut them down really quickly. Just remember, there's nothing wrong with giving your bush a nice spring trim. It really accents the planter areas.
Step number 2 is an optional step with using a selective or non-selective herbicide.
Fast forward 5-7 days and this is what I'm left with. A lot of grasses and some new weeds that have leafed out. Now this is not uncommon, but before we go any further, we need to make sure that we take care of the weeds or less desirable grasses that are here. So what I've chosen to do is to use an herbicide, a non-selective herbicide, meaning that it'll kill everything that it touches, called Eraser. Now, anytime we use these types of products, it's very important to understand that you must read the label and you must be wearing your personal protective equipment. Now, the most important aspect of this application is to remember, don't touch your grass or the plants that you want to keep. I try to stay at least 6 to 12 inches out from any of my perennial plants that I have in my planter areas to make sure that they stay safe. Now, I know a lot of you tree-hugging hippies out there saying, hey, Ginja, go ahead and use the baking soda and use the vinegar and blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line is I don't want to sterilize my soil because I'm going to be planting more plants in the future. So I want to make sure that I don't ruin my soil. And I can actually plant things after using Eraser within about 2 weeks. Now, when I use glyphosate products, I make sure to keep the plants that I'm spraying dry for about 6 to 12 hours to make sure that it chemically adheres. I'm also not going to pick, pull, or do any weed whacking for another 3 to 5 days after I put it down. Now, these are my results after about 7 days. It takes a little while to pull through the plant, but you can see all those grasses that I sprayed are now dry, they're brittle, and they're dying. You do not need to wait 5 days to do this process. I did it to make sure that you guys could see what it looks like when the plant starts dying.
Step number 3, applying a selective pre-emergent. Now the pre-emergent of my choice today is a product called Snapshot. It's actually got 2 pre-emergents in it. One is called trifluralin, which is actually the same active ingredient as preen.
Pre-emergents are such an important part of the process because they stop the weeds before they start. Now by that what I mean is when the weed seed establishes in the ground and it starts a process called germination, when it starts to bud out and take root, the pre-emergents disrupt that process. Now this is not going to be a bulletproof stop the weeds process, because if your annual weeds and biennial weeds have already gone through the germination process, it's not going to stop that. So there are going to be a certain amount of weeds that are still going to be coming up, but our pre-emergents set us up for the future. They just don't do anything for our past. Now you'll notice that I'm spreading towards the house, and that's because the trifluralin will stop rooting of my grasses, which is one of the main reasons why I'm using it. But you don't want to get any of this stuff in your lawn. It will stunt growth of the roots. Which brings an interesting argument. What am I going to do along this fence line that's got tight tolerances, and on the other side of the fence, I have a ton of grass? So I started digging into the label, and the best thing you could use is use what's called a drop spreader. Now, Preen was really smart, and they included one in the bucket. Now, the Snapshot does not include a drop spreader, which gave me an idea. I have a ton of these pickle jars lying around, and I don't know what to do with them. So what I did is I grabbed a screwdriver, a hammer, and I started poking a bunch of holes in the lid of this pickle jar. Now, I'm not necessarily going for perfection here, or even the best DIY hack, but I'll tell you what, this is much better than spending 15 to 20 bucks on a drop spreader, and it works fantastic. Now, my goal along this fence line is to stop the grasses from creeping in and to stop active weeds. And this little drop spreader that I created out of the pickle jar is fantastic. It allows me to spread it on the fence line without pushing product over the fence line and into my yard. And this is going to make for a perfect weed barrier. Now, Snapshot and Preen, they market about 6 months of active anti-germinating properties. I'd say it's more about 90 days, give or take. The labeled rates on the Snapshot are 2.3 pounds to 4.6 pounds per 1,000 square feet, and the Preen label is 6.25 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Now, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we get even distribution of the granular, and I hate to brag here, but my little drop spreader hack is working marvelously. The final step to activating the granular is to get it wet. You want to make sure that you get it wet with about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch of water. Make sure it's oversaturated, but you don't want to saturate it so much that it's going to run off onto the sidewalk. Now, it's really important that you get this watered in and watered in properly, because what ends up happening is each one of those little pieces of granular are going to start dissipating into the soil. Now, when they drop into the soil, they're almost going to meld together, and that's going to form that weed barrier and disrupt the germination of the new weeds. Now, I got to give a shout out to all my UK friends and all my hippie friends that say, but Ginja, we don't want to do the chemical route. What are our options? Well, the best thing that you guys can do is just lay out and strategically place cardboard throughout these areas. Cardboard's nice because when it gets wet, it gets soggy, stays on the surface of the soil. It's going to allow water down, but nothing up.
Step number 4 is applying mulch at an application rate of 4 to 7 inches deep. Back to work. Get this pile out of here. Back on the suck train. Oh, yeah. Love this shovel, though. Now, this is by far my most handy tool for the job. It's a 12-inch scoop shovel. I have a description in the link, but it makes it a lot easier to get this mulch up and where it needs to go. There's a couple of my favorite things. This and a bow rake and a nice wheelbarrow.
Now, when I'm applying my base layer of mulch, I like to use raw cedarwood mulch. I don't like the painted stuff. I don't like the other mulch because it blows with the wind. It gets all in the grass. You end up stepping on it and you end up having a big old mess. Now, the number one reason why I like cedarwood mulch is because it mats together. It's fairly windproof. Other reasons would be is it kind of regulates soil temperature because the top layer gets warmer, but the bottom layers don't. It reduces evaporation as well. It also reduces the likelihood of weeds growing because they have a harder time getting through it. And it's got anti-insect properties to it. Nonetheless, it smells fantastic. And for me, I really like the organic look.
So I'm going to show you why I love this cedarwood mulch. It's not even a comparison to the decorative stuff. Now, the interesting thing about mulch is you can put this down first and then put the decorative stuff on top of it as this mats down. I mean, look at the cliffhanger. These fibers just hang on. They're pretty wind resistant. Now, I'm not saying that you're not going to get a strand or two here or there in the lawn, but this stuff just mats together. It's just amazing, and I love it.
Not only do I want the weed killing properties, but I kind of want a 3-dimensional look to this. So I'm going to go really heavy when I put it down, almost 10 to 12 inches, because it's going to mat down right off the bat. Just remember, the thicker you put the mulch in, the longer lasting the weed barrier becomes.
What about you, Rolls Royce? Still unimpressed. What are we going to do, huh? Woo! Got most of the hard work done, man. My pile is starting to come down a lot. Now these piles are actually pretty big. I've got to start knocking them down. Now I'm gonna knock them down, and then afterwards I'm gonna get them wet. Now the reason I'm gonna get them wet, as you can see, they're piled up really, really high. I've probably got 10, 12 inches in some of these areas. And it's kind of like a sponge. Once it receives that water, it's gonna start matting down, and that's the effect that I really want. Now this pile, it's probably gonna sink 3, 4 inches over the next 3, 4 months. And that's what's gonna give our long-term residual effect to being weed-free and having a maintenance-free planter area and garden area.
Now, it's always fun to look back and see where we've gone, but these before and after pictures are absolutely amazing. Now, keep in mind, this is the exact same process I did at my last house before moving into this house. And I can tell you firsthand, this will give you about 2 to 3 seasons of maintenance-free living, which is just incredible.
Well guys, this brings us to an end of how to create and maintain your planter areas to be maintenance free. If you guys have any questions or concerns, hit me up in the comments below. You know I'd love to help you guys out. Until next time guys, the Pest and Lawn Ginja. Later.